Hello folks, I'm Ed Overstreet and welcome to the Night Sky Imaging YouTube channel. This morning, December 14th, 2021, I will be imaging our star and we'll be looking at both the surface and the rim of the sun, and I'll be using the Quark Chromosphere by Daystar and that's attached to a refractor, the Astro 65 EDQ, and then riding on top of that is a Solar Scout, and the Solar Scout is a Daystar product that it looks like it's a chromosphere attached to a refractor, but at any rate, both of them are outside right now. I'll show you. I think I have a picture of it, and I will see if I can't. There you go. The Solar Scout is on top, and of course, on the bottom is the Astro 65 EDQ. Now, I have a electronic focuser by Moonlight on the Astro telescope. Underneath that are the Pegasus Ultimate power boxes, and I love those things. They provide a data and an electronic hub for everything your equipment is using, so I really do benefit from those. And then on top I have a ASI 224 planetary camera, and on the bottom scope it's an ASI 174 Pro camera, and it's also a cooled camera because I had hoped initially, it's mono, a mono camera. I'd hoped initially to give it a go in deep space imaging, but right now I'm just using it for this solar setup, and it stays out permanently. So with that being said, let's head over and let me share my screen with you, and head over to there we go. There's our sun, and I'm going to move some windows around that you can't see. That's part of my streaming software. I'm using SharpCap, and SharpCap has a free version, but for less than $20 you can buy an annual license, which mine is due now, and there's a lot of great features that come with the SharpCap product. I don't use it for deep space. I use Sequence Generator Pro, and but as I understand it, it has a terrific polar alignment routine with the Pro version, and similar to the PoleMaster. I do have the PoleMaster, but it's just unnecessary if you're using the SharpCap polar alignment routine. You don't need any additional gear, you just need that software. I think there are some specifics about the camera that you use to do the polar alignment with, but most guide cameras I think fit that requirement. I'm not positive about that, but the SharpCap software is certainly a great piece of kit. And Fire Capture is another software program, and I have it down here. I do use it, but I kind of was raised on the SharpCap, and so I'm comfortable with it. We are live now, imaging the sun. This is the surface, and it has a focus issue, so we're going to be working on that. When I set up Fire Capture, I went over to the File and SharpCap settings, and I went to File Names, and I made sure that my directory was my external SSD drive, and so you can fill up your hard drive on your laptop pretty quickly. I don't care how big the hard drive on your laptop is, with these AVI files. So I highly recommend having an external hard drive. And these hard drives that I'm using are extremely small. They can actually Velcro to your telescope if you are running one of those little mini computers on your telescope. I don't. I have laptops outside and that I'm connected to, and I'm inside, and I am running my outside observatory kit with using Wi-Fi. I'm a long ways away, but it does work. I also set up my hardware. I have my Moonlight Focuser. There goes Astro Dog. I'm not using a filter wheel, but I do have one with ZWO. And if I were doing deep space mono imaging or planetary imaging and was using a filter wheel, I could very easily bring up that driver and the ZWO, either one, but I don't happen to have one. And I'm using the Celestron AVX. And so when I go outside and connect, well, not necessarily go outside, but when I start this program, I pick the camera, of which there are two. There's this 174 on the lower refractor, and then there's the 224 that's located, and it is a color camera. I need to work on focusing there too, and look at the dust all over this. We remove that with flat frames, we get rid of all of it using Auto Stacker. But at any rate, let's go back and disconnect that camera, and let's reconnect the 174, and let's take a walk around the sun with the benefit of these hand controllers. I have the speed set to 8 times sidereal, and so we're going to look at some of the other features of SharpCap. Not to mention that over here on the right are all the settings. I currently have the exposure set to 13.5 milliseconds, and I'm capturing frames that would go into an AVI file. You can set your format right here, and I've got an AVI output set up, bidding at 1, and then the capture area is as wide and large as I have with this camera. So that encompasses those settings. These are my exposure settings, and I can raise the exposure up, drop it, and you will see me doing that in a few minutes. This is where I set the gain. I also raise that up and drop it, and I do that, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. I keep the frame rate always set to maximum. I don't use flip. Turbo's on auto. High speed mode is on. So that encompasses those settings right now. And then here's my focuser, the Moonlight Focuser. And I did mention that the telescope on top, it doesn't have a focuser. I have to go out and babysit that, manually make those adjustments, which is fine. I have the luxury of operating the lower one and without having to make those trips, so I'm blessed. And this is the I said this is the driver for the Celestron telescope, and this is the Moonlight Focuser that allows me to go in and out of focus by using a course adjustment, and I have it set at 100 steps. I'll show you. I'll go in 100 steps, and you can see I'm losing focus. I can come back out 100 steps, and we're back where we started from. My fine focus is done by operating this that I have set at 10 steps, this adjustment feature. I'm going to come back out because that was the wrong direction, and you can see focus is improving. I'm at 8,705 steps from being racked all the way in, so I'm out 8,705 steps, which really doesn't mean a whole lot down here at the bottom, other than I make a special note of that. And there are times when I'm out working on the telescope and adjusting the focuser, and I may have it racked all the way in. And so knowing that my focus area is somewhere around the 8700 mark gets me in the ballpark without having to spend a lot of time fiddling with the focuser trying to find where focus is. And this is the histogram. This is extremely important to play around with because I want to expose without clipping the highlights. I don't worry about the darks because the darks are pretty much the sky background, and but I am concerned about clipping out the highlights. So with the exception of when we are trying to resolve the flares that are coming off of the rim of the sun, and then we're clipping by choice. I don't really use any other image controls down here. There's a brightness control. I don't need that. I'm not cooling this camera. There's no point. I'm taking extremely fast exposures, and the sensor is not in need of noise management, but I could turn the cooler on, and if I had it plugged in, which I don't, I could start cooling the camera. So that's just part of one of the neat features that SharpCap has. It allows you to do anything as an acquisition software program, just about. I mentioned that I am a fan of Sequence Generator Pro, and I do like it a lot, and so I'm dependent on it, and that's what I typically use. Some other features up here before we take a trip around the sun. Let me move this over. I like to set my target name. Of course, I'm going to be imaging the sun, and I'm going to add, just to distinguish it from other images I'm going to be taking, I'm going to add sun underscore and surface, and these are light frames. I'm going to keep I'm not going to do any post-processing in SharpCap, but you can. I do want to have a single crosshair, and I'll show you why I use that in just a minute. It's extremely valuable to me to help me to keep my position nailed down when I'm doing a time lapse, because I don't want, the sun will move even though I am tracking at the solar rate down here, and not and I'm staying pretty much on the sun. It's still moving off pixel, and so I try to recenter the sun using my hand controller to make it easier for our auto stacker and all the other programs to do the stacking and the aligning. So with all that being said, there's other things in here that I like to use. There are focus assistants, and if you happen to be running an electronic focuser, this can be extremely handy. If you're operating on the sun, the moon, the planets, or some surfaces, then you want to use either contrast edge detection, histogram range, brightness range, or the Fourier detail detection, and you can play around with all three of them. For example, the contrast edge detection will help you come up, set your black point, and from there you will just kind of follow the recommendations that the software makes. But I'm going to close this out. But you can play around with all three focusing aids, and then if you're doing night sky, deep space imaging, or planetary imaging, then it's focus on stars using the full well half maximum measurement. If you have a Batinoff mask, then you can use the single star full Bahtinow's mask, or you can use the single star full well half maximum measurement. So they have several different routines to help you get your focus nailed down. I am not familiar with any of these at the bottom. I am familiar with those at the top. Now, I will tell you I don't really use either one of them other than I like to play around with them when I'm doing a time lapse, because it helps pass the time. But what I typically do when I'm going to focus and try to really nail it down is I go down here to the histogram, and I come over here to where I get these right and left arrow, and I drag this over to like get some real contrast. Then I brighten it up some so I can see what I'm doing. Oop, too much. And then I start doing my focusing, which I need to come back down to grab my focuser, and I'll see if I can, let's go in. Okay. Too much. We're pretty close. We are live imaging the surface of the sun. I want to restore my, by the way, if you took a picture of this, it wouldn't show what this histogram is showing. It would show, based on the exposure time, exactly. You can either drag this back, or you can just go up here and click reset, and it will reset it. It would have taken a picture that looked like this, or an AVI file, video. Okay, let's continue to, let's make a trip around the sun now. I'm going to, let's go west a little bit. Up, wrong way. And we'll start here. I think I'm going to move up to side 16 times sidereal. Wrong way. I've got to get the hang of this first. Okay, we're going to go this way. And I'm really looking for anything going on the surface of the sun. And you can see that there's a lot of things that aren't moving. These are dust spots, and we'll flatten those out when we process some pictures. I have other videos where I'm processing. Now we need to start going south. I got a ton of backlash on this mount. Oop. Still haven't figured out which way to go. And I'm looking at the surface of, oh, what we got down here, or over here. There you go. Okay, we got some pretty cool action on the surface here. And I'm going to move this over to the crosshairs. Ah, we have a sunspot down here too, right here. That is not a, I don't think it's a dust spot. Let's move it. Let's move it. See if, yeah, no, it's a, it is definitely a sunspot. Okay. And we've got two here that are developing. So, all right, we got some imaging, some interesting areas and regions of the sun worth imaging. Now what I want to do is see if there's anything worth imaging on the rim of the sun. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to head up here, and I'm going to raise my gain. I'm just going to type in 200, and look, we've got little action on the surface. And let's raise the exposure up a little bit, see if we can bring out, nope. That's about where I'd want to take images so I get some detail there. Let's back this down some. I think we were at 12 milliseconds in that neighborhood, and our gain should be around 80. No, we're at see, 90. And let's go, I believe it was actually 13.8. Okay, that's it. But our focus looks like we've lost it, so let's start working on that. Again, I'm moving, let's go in. All right. Okay, now once I have found an area of the sun that I want to image, I want to raise the exposure as much as I can. And I want to raise it, but I don't want to clip. So I'm going to go up to 14. And I'm going to do this maybe now to 15. Up, too much. Let's go back to 14. And all right, and the reason is that when I take this image into post-processing, although you can't see the prominences, the flares coming off of the rim of the sun, the one that we saw when I overexposed, when I process it, I'll be able to bring those out. But I want to help the processing some, so I'm going to make my exposure as bright as I can, and I sacrifice frames per second, but I'm not going to take any more than 1,000 frames per second. So again, you see where I am imaging, and I'm using this Crosshairs kind of as a reference on this sunspot, and I'm going to move it over just a little bit, but I want to slow this down to 4 times sidereal, and I think I need to go south and nudge it just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So the next time I take an image, I'll go right back there to that same spot. The scene's pretty ridiculous because you can see we've already lost focus, and that's not the focusing, that's the atmosphere. Stuff that's going on between my telescope and the heat coming off of homes, roofs as the sun comes out, and everything else between the sun and my telescope. So you can do a couple of things here in order to start your capture. You can go on to Start Capture, which actually brings up this Start Capture, and I'll cancel it and show you. You can go Start Capture, and it brings up that same dialog box. And I have typed in sun surface, but if you hadn't already put this in under target name up here, then this is where you could do it, and it'll populate that. I can either select a single frame, I can go unlimited, and this is what I do when I'm doing sometimes time lapses, and there's cases where I'll go, I know specifically how many frames that I want. You can set the time limit, like I might want to take a time lapse over a 2-hour period, and or you want to, it's not a time lapse. You want to take a say a 2-minute video, and so it will take however many frames it can get in the 2-minute time. Or you can just say I want to take 1,000 frames, and how many do you want? You may want 200 frames, and do you want to pause between frames 5, 6, 7 seconds? Then you can. There's also a deep space option for setting up for you guys that like to do deep space imaging, where you guys can and use this software. And I do Deep Space, but I use again Sequence Generator Pro, where you can set up all your sequence settings. Okay, there's Astro Dog. You can see the sun has moved off of center, so let's move it back over. And again, I'm getting out of sync and declination. I went too far. Let's bring it back. And I got to go west a little bit too. And let's bring it over. It's like running a battleship. Once you get it started, you can't stop it. And the sun's moving on me too, so. Too far. Now we got to go east. Now we got to go south. At any rate, you can see you got to have some fun. You can also lose your hair and patience doing this. And I'm just trying to get to crosshairs centered as close as I can to that little sunspot. And we're getting there. All right. So I like to use quick capture when I'm just doing a single image and I'm not doing a time lapse. And you just pull that box down, and I'm going to click on, let's do 1,000 frames. And so down here at the bottom left, you can see where I'm capturing frames at the rate of 71 frames per second. And that's not lightning fast, but that's good enough. It's done. And so while I'm here, I want to remember where I was. I'm at 14 and I'm at 90. So I'm going to raise this up to 200, and I'm going to raise this to 20. And there's my proms, and I'm going to capture, but this time I only want 500 of the rim. And that's done. I'm going to make a change here, which I should have done earlier. I'm going to call this flare, and I'm going to take another one for 500. And when that's done, I'm going to go down and get another. I'm going to get an image of that other sunspot. So we want to go back to 14 and 80. And now let's make this 85. Let's go down to, we need to go, I got to reset my crosshairs. No reticule. And you can move these. You know, I can move it down here and set it on there. But the problem when you do that, if you're not careful, if you accidentally click up here, then they move up there and you've lost it. So if you can just use where it automatically puts them, and then if you can center the sun and you have a frameable image, just do that. So in this case, I'm going to need to move the sun up. So in order to do that, I'm going to go east, and I want to come down here to about right there. Too far, a little west, and then I'm going to go south. And then we're going to come back west. I'm getting the hang of it now. And back down east. Okay, now let's knock off 1,000, and we're going to go back to sun. and we're going to knock off 1,000 here. In fact, let's call this Sun 2, meaning second sunspot. I'm going to knock off 1,000 here. When I'm finished with this, I will show you how to take a flat before we leave, or I sign off, and I'll also process one of these images and show you how you apply the flat and remove all of this dust that's accumulated. When you see something that looks like real dark, this is actually on the camera's sensor. Dark specks like that are on the sensor, and you have to take the protective glass off of a ZWO camera to clean it. Don't do that. You'll unseal it, and you can get moisture condensation in it if you use it at night. Just don't. You just have to flat it out. Now these spots are on the protective glass. The little further away, the little bits of dirt, but they're further away and they're blown up. They're that much further away. So this is one here. It's either on the protective glass or the Quark Chromosphere. Nothing at the end of the telescope, on the main telescope element, is causing any of this at all. If you see dirt and dust back there, forget it. Blow it off. Don't worry about it. That's all you need to do. Unless you get something like a bird dropping on it or something, then you got to get after that right away. All right, we've taken a 1,000 frame image of this. Let's do one more, and okay, we're done. And now I think what I want to do is I want to overexpose again to 20 and raise this up to 200. And let's see if we've got some flare activity down here too. So let's Sun2 underscore FLARE. So this is the underscore FLA. You hear me spelling out loud. And I want to take a couple here at 500 frames. One of the reasons why I'm taking the surface and the flares is that in Photoshop, another way, if you're just not doing a time lapse and you just want to combine them, another way to process them is to process just this and bring out the detail in the flares. Don't worry about the surface because it's going to go away. You're going to darken it, and then process the surface, and then you can stack one on the other and just bring out the flares on the rim of the sun. But I'm going to do it even an entirely different way, not even using Photoshop, and bring out the surface and the flares all at the same time. Anyway, I still like to get them. So let's go back to Sun, and let's call this Sun 3, because I'm sure we're going to find something else as we zoom around the sun to take. If not, we'll go into processing. So what I want to do now is to bring my capture back down to 14 and my gain to 85, and I got 47 seconds. Okay, we're back. See how far I've drifted off in declination, which doesn't matter. I'm going to go back to 16 times sidereal, and I want to Go down here and see what else is going on. Okay, one of the things, again, I want to go back to 2,200 and drag this up. Yeah, there's some activity down there. Let's just leave it overexposed and continue to go around. Oh, got a nice little problem down here. Oh, let's see if there's anything on the surface that might make this a doozy. 85, 14. Oh, nah, pretty uneventful. Let's go ahead and take this though, because I want to combine this with that. We're going to take 1,000 frames here. The scene has gotten better because the focus looks better, and I haven't done anything. All right, we're at 800 frames, 900. We are done. And let's now go back to 200 and 20. And let's do a couple. Let's change this to underscore flare. I'll show you in a minute why I'm doing this. And let's take this is a pretty hairy looking this is a good flare to do a time lapse on. So and when I do that, I center the crosshair, say right in the center. I try to find a reference part that I think's going to be there a long time that I can come back to, and so it'd probably be about in that area right there. So I would move the sun to where the crosshairs are right there, and then try to keep the sun in the center of those crosshairs as the time lapse goes and does its thing, taking one AVI file after the other until I got, say, 300 1,000 frame AVI files. Then we put them all together after we've stacked them and sharpened them. We put them together in using PixInsight and 2 other software programs. So let's take another Sunspot or Sun Surface 3, and actually I like this flare so much that I'm going to make the last frame a $1,000. That'll help me remember that I made this a 1,000 frame flare. Let's finish taking a run around the sun here, and when that's done, and it's just finished, and so let's go see what else is going on the surface. I mean the rim of the sun. This is fun stuff, folks. I love doing this. I could blow a whole day. Have to pay attention because my mount's going to flip in a few minutes. As I'm approaching, I think this is the only time, yeah, we did look at the surface here. Let's bring it back down to 85 and this to 14 again. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on there. All right, we're going to take a flat, and we need to give this a name. F L-A-T. The Wi-Fi is just... Never have some... Come on. Take it. Alright, and we can go over here and click on flat frame. Now what I want to do is I'm going to, it just makes it easier, I'm going to put the sun in the center of the frame. Like so. And the exposure's fine. And then I'm going to go down to my focusing. Well, where have I put? There we go. Scope controls. I'm going to go down to my focusing, and we're going to focus. Let's go out about 500 frames. You want to go out far enough that you don't have any surface. You don't want to remove that. All you want is to see the dust on your optical train. Let's go out one more. I think I went out 6 times. And then we're going to go up. And these don't need to be any longer than, say, 500 frames. That's my first flat. And it's done. And here's my second flat. Okay, now I do know, in fact I'll take you outside and show you my outside. I don't know if it's going to, I'm bringing up my cameras that are shining on my, okay, this, if you look at the far right, I have the solar set up, and the weights are pretty much horizontal now. So I think the sun is scheduled to flip at 10 or 12 after. So it's getting ready to flip on me, and so all I'm going to do is park it. So I'm going to go down to my software, and I'm just going to click on park, and we'll go back and make sure. There it goes. So it's coming around. Now these 2 telescopes here that I'm using are for deep space, and this is my observatory, my roll-off dome. Umbrellas. Our homeowners association will not permit outbuildings, so this is the best I can do. Okay, my telescope has parked. It's about done. And I'm in the dark, as you can see. So we're back to our software, and I really no longer need this, so I'm going to disconnect the cameras, and I'm going to go ahead and close. This is the ultimate power box, by the way. Get rid of that. And my focuser's connected, my mount's connected. I no longer need the mount, so I'm going to turn it off. I actually don't no longer need the focuser. I'm going to turn it off. And if I had my camera connected, this is where the camera is. I need to go ahead and, if I had a camera connected for cooling, it would be there. And this is typically what I put if I happen to be using, I have two other ultimate power boxes, on one for each kit, and normally my flat panel goes on, that's what I put here. I plug that into this power, and then you can see the USB, what hub's being used by what item that you have plugged in, and you can see if there's any need to recycle your USBs. You can tell which one's on. You can turn them on and off. You can look at your power source, and right now we're not pulling any voltage, and so our current's essentially zero. But you can look at your power. You can look at your temperature, the dew point and the temperature being in red. When those two converge, you can pretty much count on moisture being on your kit. You can set up here by using your configuration tool. But I didn't mean to get off on this Pegasus Ultimate Power Box, but these are just awesome things. Sure make life easier. And then let's turn that off. Don't need that outlet on. And when you go up here to don't know why that's not. When you go up here to power, you can turn all the power off, which there's no need to have it on now, so I will turn it off. So I can also just go on up here and shut down this, but I got some other things I need to do. So let's head over now to let's bring up Auto Stacker. And the first thing I want to do is to bring up my flat frame that I took. So let's go to today's solar imaging. You know what I probably did? I sure did. I put it on my C drive. So now we have to go back to we need to go to my desktop, Sharp Cap. Oh, where are my images at? This is crazy. I can go ahead and close out the outside cameras. Well, did I miss something? We want to go to all right. This was the solar I did yesterday, and so I had to put it on. Well, that's insane. I've lost my now I'm sorry I shut it down because I could look and see exactly. There's only one other place that it could go then. It's got to be on my C drive. I'll be daggone. How could I have lost? This is a first. I know it was saving. I can't figure out where I put them. And it's here we go. For some reason I typed in December 14th instead of 12/14. Here it is. No, I didn't. It's in here somewhere. That's 12/14 though. It's got to be it. I am going nuts here. I'm gonna find it. It's here. I just don't have a clue where I put it. If nothing else, I'll go back to yesterday and we'll use one of those flat frames that I took. That was yesterday. I'll tell you what, let's go up to date modified. Oh, what is this? What the heck? I don't get it. Alright, somehow or another I managed to do all of that and not save a single solitary I ought to look at my questions that people may be asking, because I think did I save that inside of this? Yes. Okay. I made them. Here it is. Okay. So we took a flat, we took sun flare, we took sun surface, then we took a second sun surface and a second corresponding flare. Then we took a sun 3 flare at 500 and a sun 3 flare at 1000. So thank you. I need video. Don't tell me there's nothing here. There we go. So let's just pick up any one of these. And alright, here's our flat frame. And can't see it, so let's... Alright, that's what our flat frame looks like, folks. Bad. Actually, it really isn't that bad, considering it stays outside day in and day out, covered with a telegizmo. I don't make any adjustments here. All I'm going to do, I'm not going to analyze. All I'm going to do is go to image calibration, and I'll put create master frame. And I'm going to call this, let me get to the right date now that I know where we got to go here, and here it is. And we're going to go to flat, and we're going to just call this master flat. Okay, now that's saving my flat. Remember, you don't make any changes. You just open your flat frame, which is your defocused sun-filled image, and then you bring it to your save open image calibration, and you just create. Make sure you know where you save it. Typically, when you try to load your flat, it goes right back there. But I've buried this directory instead of putting it in the root directory of my hard drive, so it's kind of having to hunt things. All right, we're going to now let's go back to let's go down here to this was the most interesting, sun surface one. Let's do this one first, and let's pull this one up. Okay, and let's alright, you see these spots right here. First thing we're going to do is go to image calibration, and we're going to load. You don't have to do it at this time. You can go ahead and process it and then load the flat if you want, but I like to load it right now. And this is 21, 12, 14 flat, so that's the right one. So all that disappears. There it went. So it cleans up your sun from the stuff and what you want to do. Now I want to move this box, which you can do by just holding down your control key on a Windows, and I use a Mac, by the way, but inside I'm on a main Mac in my office. Outside are Windows laptops that are connected to my kids. Okay, so I most of the time will scrub through this, or I'll play through it and see if there's sharper areas to use as a reference frame. But it actually all looks pretty much the same. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on surface. improved tracking, and nothing else is going to be. In order to stack them, you can either crop it or expand it. I'll use crop, but there's no need to do either. I keep it on Laplace noise robust at 5 or 4. Local, if I'm doing planets, I may raise that a little bit. Analyze is next. I don't everything else is pretty much default, so I'm going to click on Analyze, and it's going to take us a second. So there is a new version of AutoStacker coming out. It was actually last year at this time. Emil did a presentation at Woodland Hills in California at their camera shop. Actually, I'm sure it was streamed from his home across the pond, but at any rate, it was then that he revealed some of the secrets of running AutoStacker, and he pointed out that he's working on a whole new AutoStacker plan. He talked about some of the additions, and it looks pretty exciting. Kind of thought it was going to come out before the end of last year, but I think COVID screwed everything up for everyone. Okay. Now, I need to save a percentage of the frames that I took, and I took 1,000, remember, and down here at the bottom left it says I have 1,000 frames, so we know I have 1,000. And look at this quality graph, and this is what I kind of base things on. If the center of the line going across this horizontal line means that the frames above the line are better than the frames below the line, which is what it's telling me, and these are all the frames taken. You can see probably the seeing was pretty good. I had it focused, then seeing got bad, then the seeing got good, and then the seeing got so-so. But focus didn't change during this entire image, so it's not a sharp focus issue as much as it is a seeing issue. But it crossed about halfway, about 50% of the way. So I interpret that as 50% of my frames are above the line and 50% are below the line. But is above the line good enough? There's another line here, and if you look at where this crosses this top line, it's up here about 20%. So about 20% of the frames are really, really good. That might even be 15%. But so that I have plenty of frames to work on, I'm going to select 20%, which is 200 frames. I took 1,000, so I'm going to select can't even talk. Help me, guys. 20%. Or you could just type in 200 frames right here. Before that, we're able to go ahead and stack these, though. I'm going to set reference points. You can do it either manually or you can select automatic, and I'm going to go up to 104 and see what happens, and that looks fine to me. And so what I'm going to do is I don't select sharpen, I do that in post. I'm going to save into a folder, and the folder will be named 20. So the name of the folder will be 20, meaning that I saved 20% of the frames. I'm also going to save 50% of the frames, and there'll be two folders, one with 20% of the frames and one with 50. I think I'm also going to save 10% of the frames, which means the very, very best, because after I'm finished doing this, I'm going to experiment first with 20, but I'm going to go back and look and see if I get a better image using only the very best frames. So with that being said, I'm not drizzling. I wouldn't drizzle unless I was doing something really small, like a planet, just personal feelings. So this is going to take us a few minutes, folks, but hang in there with me, because I want to show you how I bring the problems out of this image and how I will process this image, not using Registacks. I use Registacks, but in this case, because I want to see the proms, I'm going to use a program called IMPPG. And it's doing the part that takes the longest really is the alignment and the stacking. So it takes 40 or 50 seconds to do these 200 frames correctly. And down here is your progress bar. So we're about done with alignment. Stacking's going to take another 40%, 30 seconds. Now it's going faster. Map analysis is pretty quick, and map recombination is lightning fast. Okay, we're going to finish that up, and once we've done that, we'll minimize this image. We'll bring up IMPPG, which is also free software. This is free software. Oh, it's doing this 3 times because we're doing, I decided to do 50% and 10%. All right. I think we're finished. And we're going to minimize that and bring up IMPPG. And we're going to go to File, Open, and we need to find where was the solar at? Is that it? Nope. I already screwed that up. Is this it? Yep. Okay, and we did the sun surface, and I think we did, okay, there's our 3 directories: 10% of the frames, 20% of the frames, and 50% of the frames. So let's bring up this AVI file, which is, I mean, it's now saved as a TIFF, and let's fit it to our screen. We can, okay. The first thing I want to do, though, I want to go over here to edit, and I want to put select and process all. It takes some computer power, but I want to see the whole image change, not just what's in this box. So when I select, edit, select, and process all, that box goes away, because now any changes I make, takes a minute for them to take not a minute, but a few seconds for them to take effect. But I'm going to sharpen the surface a little bit by raising the sigma up, unsharp mask, and the amount that I'm going to apply of the unsharp mask, let's bring it up a little bit more. And so we're starting to get some better detail on my surface. And this isn't too much different than the application of wavelets that you can use in in Registacks, but in many ways I like it better. Okay, but I mentioned I want to bring out the proms. So I've got an anchor point right here. I'm going to put an anchor point about right there, and then I'm going to drag this up here. And when I did, I brought out this detail that's on the sun. Now I can play around with this And when I do play around with it, I generally bring it in the house so that I don't have this Wi-Fi delay, because these are the settings outside in the computer. And when I do a time lapse, what I'll do is I'll go over to File, and I will save these process settings. So everything I've done here, these settings and this curve will be saved, and I will stack everything in AutoStacker using the batch processing process in AutoStacker. Then I will load all of these images and batch, and you just click on batch processing, and I will load all the files, and I will browse and find my process settings. I'll come up with the output, and it will apply all these settings onto all of those TIFF files that were created by AutoStacker. Then I take them into Photoshop, and using the container, process container, I will apply color and crop, cropping out to my satisfaction the part of the sun that I want to see, and then I will put it into and color it. Then I will bring it back into this program, and I will go to Tools, Align Image Sequence, and I'll add all the files, get an output folder, don't change anything else, start processing, and it will align all the files. And then when I'm done, I bring up a program called PIP. I don't have it on this laptop, but PIPP, and you can make a GIF file or an AVI file movie out of all of your aligned files, and it shows the activity you've taken over time of the sun. That's pretty much all that's to that. It's a few steps. By the way, I do have a video that I've done on how I do time lapses further on down. I don't know where it is. It's in there somewhere, buried with some of the other solar videos I've done. Okay, I think we have just about exhausted all we're going to do today. Always enjoy coming out and doing this, and I hope you did as well. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a great holiday season. I hope you all are thinking about the people in Kentucky, and if you are of faith, and I am, lifting them up, and just pray for renewal for the broken souls who have lost family members, not to mention all of their things. We're blessed. I'm so blessed and fortunate that I can sit here today and open up telescopes and do what I love to do in a warm home. So, by the way, if your church is sending supplies, our church is. If you live in the Spartanburg area, South Carolina, Anderson Monroe Baptist Church is going to take a truck up to Kentucky this Friday. They need toiletries. So if your local church in your town where you're listening to this is going to be doing the same, connect with them. These folks are hurting. They have no place to live. They'll take months to just put the light poles back up. They have over 1,000 light poles to replace. There is no electricity. There won't be. There's no phone. There's nothing. Everything they have is being brought in, and so I just have a broken heart over it. So at any rate, I hope all of you do have a healthy, happy holiday season. I thank you for watching, and if you'll subscribe and like this, that makes me feel good, and I'll continue to do these. But with that being said, I'll catch you on the next video. Clear skies to everybody.